Still, tourism is the main driver of economic growth, also for Sint Maarten. It's not yet on the level of 2016, but it is on the level of before COVID. So we saw 305,000 stay-over tourists from January to September 2024, so this year. And then, so the overall, we expect to close the year with more than 400,000 stay-over tourists in Sint Maarten. And so that's way above the level of before COVID, but not yet before Hurricane Irma. The results on the cruise, a little bit more disappointing, I would say, because the second and the third quarter were not as good as previously. And that had to do with strategic decisions of the main cruise companies that changed some of the itinerary. Competition is strong in this market, and so that hasn't picked up as much maybe as you would like. So if we then look towards 2028, what is expected for Sint Maarten is that growth is going to its more medium-term equilibrium or structural growth. So the recovery is expected to basically finish this year if you would look at the pandemic. But next year, or at the end of this year, beginning of next year, also when you compare it to pre-Irma. So you can see that in this slide on the right side, the yellow line is the 2016 level. And that's about to be crossed the beginning of 2025, and it was actually already in 2023 that Sint Maarten was back on the pre-COVID level, and so that's good. And then, but that's also the implication is that there's no more recovery growth there, and it's more the structural growth that needs to deliver now. Obviously, we don't only look at economic growth, we also take a close look at inflation, very important for purchasing power of the people in Sint Maarten. Inflation has in general terms measured by CPI by the Department of Statistics been lower than what we had seen around the globe, and in particular in the US, but still it's eating away from purchasing power if wages are not increased by as much as the inflation. So this year we saw somewhat of a pickup in inflation that's different for other countries. So there's probably going to be some of the recuperation of previous low inflation. And then next year expected to come down, like we expect the inflation in the United States to come down. And the imports from the United States is the most important determinant of price level developments also in Sint Maarten. And so with commodity prices coming down, inflation in the US coming down, we expect inflation to come down in Sint Maarten as well. That doesn't mean prices are coming down. It's always important to stress that inflation coming down means that there's still an increase in prices, but not as much as before. And 2% is according to the objective of most central banks, a healthy level of price increase. But then, of course, it's important that wages also increase to make sure that the income of people is also recovering and not only economic growth. Then after inflation, we take a look at the fiscal position of Sint Maarten. So this year, a small deficit because of the investments being done and the higher expenditure by the government of Sint Maarten. But then we expect for next year that if there's no new policies, there's going to be a budget surplus of 0.9%, at least of the current budget. Overall budget will be a small deficit. So when economic growth is positive, that means tax revenues in generally also develop positively. But of course, there's also expenditure needs for Sint Maarten, and that's why the budget balance is improving, but not as much as otherwise would be the case.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
St. Martin, here's some exciting news from the Division Study Financing. The application period for the 2025 study financing will open January 1st to February 15th, 2025. You can apply for financing to pursue tertiary education, whether here at home or abroad. Are you a talented athlete or creative artist? We've got study financing options just for you. Plus, if you're aiming for a CAPE, IB, or NEPA SBO diploma, we have study allowances available as well. So, for all the details, visit our website at studyfinancing.sx. That's studyfinancing.sx. And don't miss our public information sessions on December 12th and January 16th at the Government Administration Building, starting at 7 p.m. So, take the first step towards your future with study financing. With it, your dreams can become a reality.
Absence of a policy in the budget does not prevent work from starting. The budget reflects the year in which revenue or expenses will be realistically adjusted based on measures taken. The goal is to create realistic budgets. Ideally, any future amendments will focus on increasing revenue based on actual results, rather than reducing overstated income or expenses. This ensures better financial planning and stability while reducing the need for frequent amendments in Parliament. This approach allows us to avoid overestimating income, which can lead to shortfalls, while ensuring that expenditures are carefully managed. By planning conservatively, we create the flexibility to address unexpected challenges such as economic fluctuations, emergencies, or unplanned costs. This method reflects responsible financial management, prioritizing sustainability and adaptability to ensure we are prepared to seize opportunities and mitigate risks as they arise. As Minister of Finance, I firmly believe this is fundamental to sound financial governance. Revenue estimates for the year 2025 budget are based on historical data from Q2 of 2024, forecasted and adjusted to align with GDP projections. Similarly, expenditure estimates are grounded in Q2 data with necessary adjustments for inflation, union agreements, and existing obligations. As this is a policy-neutral budget, the potential for substantial surpluses in 2024 and 2025 is limited. The 2025 draft budget includes only initiatives that began in 2024 and are expected to continue into 2025 alongside the anticipated effects of economic growth. Changes to the presentation of the budget numbers book. There has been a slight change in the presentation of the numbers book for the 2025 budget. Previously, the budget was submitted in detail per budget code. However, this has now been adjusted to align with Article 6 of the Comptability Ordinance. According to this article, Parliament approves the budget by 1. Economic category, 2. Function, and 3. Chapter. The chapters correspond to ministries or advisory councils. This change provides the government with greater flexibility within economic categories, reducing the need for frequent budget amendments. Changes in chapter structure. Another adjustment has been made to the structure of the budget chapters. Previously, entities such as the SER, the VDSM, and the Integrity Chamber were included under the same chapter as Parliament and the higher councils. Under the new structure, Chapter 1 now includes only Parliament and the higher councils, and Chapter 2 is specifically designated for special entities such as the SER and others. These updates enhance clarity, improve budget management flexibility, and align with established financial regulations. Preparations for the 2025 budget began early 2024. The budget process, which takes approximately 9 months to complete, starts at the beginning of the year with income projections for the following year. This is followed by the allocation of resources to the various ministries and high councils, as well as the collection and compilation of relevant information. It is crucial that all ministries submit their respective budgets timely. For the 2026 budget, this will be a key priority, with each minister responsible for ensuring the timely submission of their ministry's draft budget. The first draft of the 2025 budget was submitted to the Council of Ministers on September 4th. This delay occurred because in May 2024, the amendment of the 2024 budget became a priority, delaying the 2025 budget. On September 13th, the 2025 budget was sent simultaneously to the CFT for their Article 11 advice and to Yazet and Way for a legal assessment. The CFT returned their Article 11 advice within the 2 weeks review period on September 27th. The Yazet and Way legal advice followed on October 16th, a month after submission. After incorporating these inputs, the budget was resubmitted to the Council of Ministers for approval. It was then forwarded to the Council of Advice on November 5th, whose feedback was received on December 2nd. The necessary changes were made to the 2025 budget based on the feedback from the Council of Advice. The final draft, including the NADA report, was approved by the Council of Ministers on December 10th and subsequently submitted to the Governor on December 11th for presentation to Parliament.
Very quick question, because I heard the minister in her presentation mention the subsidized schools, which I really want to actually point that out and commend the minister on making sure that they were included in this budget. The only thing that I wanted to find out about that is, in order for the payments to be processed for the subsidized school teachers, is there anything else needed for that? Because I know that now that the minister mentioned that they're in a budget, I just wanted to know if anything is pending for that, or is that something like in the foreseeable future, we will never have the delay again in their payments? Because what happened this year, and I also discussed this with the minister, is that I believe it was the vacation pay minister, when the vacation pay came through, we were in contact because obviously we had a lot of subsidized schools that were complaining that they didn't get their payment. And I remember specifically discussing this where, because it wasn't included in the budget, it had to be an adjustment that had to be done. But I did not get if it's a permanent fixture in the budgets going forward, or if there's still work pending, or like, let's say from the ministry side, in order to make that a permanent fixture in the budget. That is literally all I have for now. I also take note in the fact that in the presentation, the minister mentioned that there is a 15 million arrears of the harbor. And just to put it out there, that the harbor was actually going to be one of the government-related entities that I was going to focus on, because of the fact that you do have, if we're talking honestly about our government related entities, our government-owned entities, they are all really in a dire state. And so the last one that kind of like went under the radar was the harbor, because no one was really paying attention to it. But when you listen to the Minister of Finance, and she says that it's in 50 million in arrears in the concession agreement, again, red flags are going to start going off in my head, in the sense of, okay, are we going to be worrying about another one? Because we were trying to put out the fire with one, we got to worry about another one. So it's just something for us to keep in mind, to make sure that everything that we're doing from this part, like from the side of Parliament as well as from the side of government, is making sure that we're not going to have any issues with these government-owned companies going forward. Just like what happened with Telem. Same situation where, we're struggling along or hobbling along with GB. I just want to make sure that the harbor is, can continue as a going concern. Yes, we need investments in the harbor, but we really need to make sure that we're focused on the viability of it, the going concern of the harbor. So I appreciate the minister being very forthcoming of the information of we're in arrears, we're behind in collecting concessions from the harbor. And specifically, I would like to know if, while the discussions are going on, is it something that is in arrears because, let's say, a ratio wasn't met, or is it just in arrears because they weren't in a position to pay the concession agreement? Because you do see that they have a profit, but of course, the first things you want to do when you have a profit in a company is make sure reinvest it in your company before, but you also have to follow through on your obligations to government, which comes in the form of a concession fee to all government-related entities. So just two questions: subsidized schools, and why are they in arrears if it's a ratio that wasn't met?
Are you SZV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SZV is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah, your social health insurances.
In the presentation, Minister, I'm happy to hear actually that the other ministers will be presenting a detailed presentation in January. I was a bit concerned about that because I think that the population deserves that. If you watch budget debate in any country, the budget debate is one of the biggest meetings we have. It also gives the hope for the population of what to expect, also addresses a lot of concerns that they have going forward. So I was hoping that we will actually end the year with the presentations from the different ministers so we knew what we could expect in 2025, not that we started in 2025. And I realize that the current government really trying to do everything different, and I think you can continue spinning until you end up backwards. Like, everything does not necessarily have to change. In your presentation also, you mentioned that the budget went to CFT, I believe September 13th, and also UZWay. And in a meeting we had here a couple of weeks in Parliament, I was made, one of the coalition members said, I'm a untruther, I'm a fibber, because I questioned the fact that the budget did not get a proper review from UZWay. And I said it before, it doesn't matter how the information comes here, the fact that what matters is the truth, right? So my question now is, okay, I make you give a little story. You know, the budget went downstairs. It was being booked out to go to the Council of Advice. It was stated downstairs, hey, it's missing the review from the UZWay. Finance says, forget AZ, let's go. We're rushing, we gotta be on time. You still didn't make the deadline anyway. And why this is concerning for me, and I even followed up, UZWay is the Legal Affairs Department, for those that don't know. All legislation in government is supposed to actually go to the Legal Affairs Department first before it leaves the building, right? And that's typical because you get the proper feedback first. And to be honest, I even personally followed with the governor on this. I said, Excellency, how is it possible that all of a sudden we leave government and all of a sudden normal procedures are followed, right? Because if we don't get reviews back on the most important legislation it has in government, then we can leave the other legislation pass too. So if we have other laws to come, why does it have to go to the department? So my question now is, did we get a review from AZ going and coming? So also on his way back out after we got advice from Council Advice. As a matter of fact, can we just have the advice? Can the advice be sent to us so we can see for ourselves? Next, for me, is the working environment within government. Last week, I saw, which I would assume to be a URSM article that came out. In that article, it even had a word inside they called litmus test. I had to Google that word. I didn't know what the word had mean. But the article was very, very concerning to me. The article referred to a process in government of hiring. And I was at a meeting the other day, and they referred to this government as Nepo babies. Nepo babies. And the word Nepo, it comes from the word nepotism. So, and the Nepo baby, the Gen Zs use this, millennials use this, refers to a political figure whose rise and success are rooted in nepotistic practices, relying on inherited network from wealth or opportunities available to them from their parties, or a politician whose career is largely attributed to their familiar ties rather than merit, riding in the coattails of a well-known political family or dynasty without proven independent qualifications or achievements. So when we have, so I would like to know, is there any truth related to that article that came out, that advice that, regarding the hiring process within the tax office? And the reason why, because we had a lot of civil servants that approached me about that, and they had a lot of grave concerns saying, hey, how do I know next time when I am applying for a job that I would be fairly given a similar opportunity? And a minister wouldn't come and say, hey, I want my family or a friend to get a job. And I have no issue with any of the individuals that applied, but I would also like to see that advice. So I would also like for that advice to be sent to Parliament also, so we could also, and you could send it in a confidential manner also. Sorry. Barrel your mic. So I need 10 seconds from MP York. So I would also like that document be sent to Parliament also, so we could review, because I think that we have to be able to set the integrity and build back the trust within the civil service regarding the hiring process. So like I said before, the comments at the end of the article seemed very real, because some supporters came and said, hey, I am losing confidence in this because of what happened here. So I think it's very unfortunate if it's true, but I would like to see advice for myself to determine that. Another reason why that's concerning, in the third quarter report, it mentions that government, one of their concerns or the risk is lack of skilled personnel. So capacity shortages in departments such as the finance and project management. So we don't want to continue to deter persons from applying to positions and not expecting a fair chance to be employed. Minister, in a couple of interviews you've had, you mentioned that persons don't even need to file. And I would like some clarity on that. And in one interview, you even doubled down on it when the interviewer asked for clarity. You also mentioned, like, you refer back to your old employment, and how even there they were happy that you mentioned that. So for the public to know, do they have a legal basis to file? Because I would like to know, based on your 2 interviews, has that position changed, or is that still so? Do persons have to file their taxes? And as I mentioned before, in Budget 2024, especially with seeing the Parliament that we have now, I do believe that we as MPs need to hold not just each other accountable, but also government accountable on the things that we say on the campaign trail. We can't just say things to get the vote of persons. We've had a lot of new MPs in here that said today, I'm happy for the trust you put in me, right? That trust comes with accountability and responsibility. So we can't just say things on the campaign trail and think that now that's over with. At least on my end, I plan to hold all of us accountable, including the ministers, on things that they said. So I would like to clarify on that. You mentioned that we don't have to file. It's not a requirement. So I would like that we get clear to the public, especially going to 2025, is that a requirement of the public? Is there a legal basis for them to file?